Another mass protest erupts. This time, it's China's elderly, and it could spell disaster for the Chinese Communist Party. Welcome to China Uncensored, I'm Chris Chappell. China has a major problem on its hands. Okay, I probably need to be more specific. It's like saying Nick Cannon has baby mama drama. Gotta narrow that one down, Chief. On February 8th, over 10,000 retirees stood in the rain in a mass protest against recent government health care reforms. In a few minutes, I'll explain what those reforms are and why people hate them so much. But first, the protests. They were huge. Obviously, the Communist Party knew how to handle the situation by sending in the police, because that's their reaction to everything. Eggs a little on the runny side, get the police. This is obvious insubordination. This might seem like an overreaction to you, but the Chinese Communist Party knows better. I mean, have you seen China's elderly? I'm pretty sure Master Roshi gets training advice from them. Not exactly people I'd want to get on the wrong side of. Especially because the Communist Party knows that when these people were younger, they looked like this. Yeah, the 1960s were a little different in China. Many of today's elderly were yesterday's Red Guards, perfectly willing to resort to extreme acts of violence against class enemies. So again, you really don't want to be on their bad side. If they can tie themselves in knots, imagine what they'll do to you. There's a very real risk these latest protests over healthcare reform could snowball. After the first protest, another one happened earlier this week, with thousands more protesters and more police. China's population is rapidly aging. By 2035, 400 million people in China are expected to be over 60, accounting for nearly a third of its population. Even if just a fraction of them turn out to protest, it could have huge ramifications for the party. Not just politically. If these elderly don't get their health care, they're going to make sure whoever they get their hands on is going to need health care. Whether or not the Communist Party can provide medical care for the growing elderly population will determine its legitimacy. That's because when the government puts itself in charge of absolutely every facet of society, people expect the government to take care of everything. And guess what? China's healthcare system has been managed terribly. The system is running out of money. And the reforms people are protesting are only making things worse. So how messed up is China's healthcare system? I'll tell you right after the break. Welcome back. China's state-run healthcare system is horribly broken. That's because of incompetence and corruption, which isn't a surprise since incompetence and corruption are the pillars the Chinese Communist Party are built upon. And those pillars are, of course, cracked and uneven. I won't go into the details of how the whole system works because that might be a bit much, but basically, city-level governments manage the basic health insurance fund in most parts of China. Some are managed by county-level governments, but the main thing to know is this. How rich a region is largely determines how much money is actually in the fund. And as I said, there is a lot of corruption. Senior and retired CCP cadres have long had access to generous medical treatments at public expense and without having to pay for basic health care insurance. In other words, a small group of party elite were using up most of the country's health care resources. How were they even able to blow through that much money? Were they getting so much plastic surgery they now look like Bruce Campbell's character in Escape from L.A.? Then came COVID, and things only got worse. Businesses across China were shut down for years because of the strict zero-COVID policy. So the party allowed certain businesses to stop making employee health insurance payments. Sorry for ruining your business. As a reward, we'll let you screw over the people working for you. On top of that, during the zero-COVID years, local governments and pharmaceutical companies turned the public health insurance funds into their personal piggy bank of sorts to pay for mass testing and other epidemic prevention and control measures, and maybe even wilder plastic surgeries. Zero COVID and government policies also created a lot of debt for local governments, and the party has said there will be no bailouts. After all, it's not the party's fault that the party was incompetent and corrupt. And if you disagree, that sounds like insubordination. The impact on the healthcare sector was huge. That was on top of the problems already plaguing it. That's why the party implemented the healthcare reforms. There are several main problems with existing healthcare that the party is trying to fix with those reforms. One, it was easier for people to claim insurance for hospital treatment instead of outpatient services. That means people prefer to go to the hospital, even when the problem isn't that serious. Ingrown toenail? Better clear up some space in the ICU. Daddy's coming in hot. This strained hospital resources, especially during COVID. Two, there were also cases where hospitals and patients worked together to drain insurance funds with fake illnesses and treatments. That's what happens in communist systems that foster corruption. Who taught you to be so corrupt? You, all right? I learned it by watching you. The third issue was that hospitals would turn away patients if they couldn't get a lot of money out of their personal insurance funds. Because they're trying to run a business here. What does this look like? Some kind of hospital? And a fourth issue is, if someone in your family needed medical attention, you couldn't use what was in your own personal fund to pay for their treatment. This resulted in many fraud cases as people came up with all sorts of schemes to access personal account funds to pay their relatives' medical expenses. Fraud for using your own money. Welcome to communism, folks. The party's healthcare reforms attempted to fix several of those issues. People can now use their personal funds to pay for family members' medical expenses. Reimbursement for outpatient services increased, which in theory should have reduced hospitalizations. But, like most communist state-led interventions, the reforms have also created a ton of new problems. Because to pay for the reforms, the party also had to slash benefits. In Wuhan, where the protest happened, 2 million retirees were affected. At a time of soaring healthcare costs, people were getting their medical benefits cut by more than half. Some protesters said their monthly medical benefits went from 260 yuan down to 82 yuan. Others complained the maximum amount that could be claimed went from 4,000 yuan down to 1,300. That's more cut than these senior citizens' abs. But get this. Protesting Wuhan retirees were also unhappy that active civil servants and staff in public institutions did not appear to be affected by the reform. Wow, what a shocker. Forget Jack Quaid. Chinese government workers are the Nepo babies you gotta worry about. Again, with China's rapidly aging population, this is just the beginning. Earlier this year, there was another retiree protest in Guangzhou after their health insurance premiums were cut by 2/3. This is the problem with relying on the government for everything. A government does not directly produce wealth, so it can't provide services without first taking in people's money through fees and taxes. So while the Communist Party promises to solve all of China's problems, it often just ends up creating more. And there are some problems you can't just call the police on. And China Uncensored would not be possible without support from viewers like you. Either by liking and subscribing, sharing the show with friends and family, buying an awesome t-shirt from our merch store at chinauncensored.tv/merchandise, or through direct support on the crowdfunding website Patreon or the exclusive social media platform Locals. Those are the fans I call the China Uncensored 50-cent army, who join us in the fight against the Chinese Communist Party, and as a thank you to them, I respond to their questions on the show. BellN666 asks on Locals, why do I always get notifications from YouTube and Locals hours after videos are released? Usually after I've watched them. Conspiracy? Ah, well, that's just one of the many ways YouTube messes with us. You'd think how it would work is that if you're subscribed to a channel, you'd be notified as soon as a new episode comes out. That's not how YouTube does it. First, you have to be subscribed and have the notification bell turned on. Then YouTube's algorithm works its behind-the-scenes magic to decide whether or not being subscribed with notifications turned on means you really want to be notified of a new episode. Sometimes it can take hours or even days. Of course, if for some reason an episode isn't getting a lot of views, like maybe because people don't know when we've posted a new episode, the algorithm will decide the episode is probably not something people are interested in and won't recommend it. That's how China Uncensored can have almost 2 million subscribers, but most episodes never get close to that in views. That's why Locals is nice. It will actually notify you as soon as an episode gets posted. The only downside is I have to manually post it on Locals, which I usually don't have the time to get to until a few hours after we usually publish on YouTube. So that's on me. I'll try to be speedier about it, but usually when an episode comes out, I'm busy recording the next episode. So thanks for your patience and your support, BellN666. And thank you for watching. If you want to be part of our exclusive social media platform and help us stand up to the Chinese Communist Party, for a small monthly contribution, you can join us on Locals. That's ChinaUncensored.locals.com. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.